Hello everyone and welcome back to the 50th Annual Sun and Fun International Convention and Fly-In here at beautiful Lakeland Linder International Airport. We're coming to you live and in the clear from the Central Florida Aerospace Academy. I'm Ben Coleman, your host anchor here for the Florida Aviation Network, along with a wide variety of volunteers we have, from students to airline captains, and we have it all. And we always look forward to coming and bringing these safety presentations to you. As a matter of fact, today is a Wings credit opportunity. Stay with us for the entire program, and at the end of the program there will be a four-letter code, and that code is what you use to go online to get your Wings credit, your FAA Wings credit. If you don't understand what that is, it doesn't matter, because you're not going to do it anyway. If you want to know, then look up what FAA Wings program is all about, and you can be part of it, and it will help you in many ways, not just one, many ways. Safety is what we're here all about, and even during the Sun and Fun Expo, we still have that as our common core and our thread here at the Florida Aviation Network. And today is no different, because we have Dr. Raul Salazar. Raul?
Nice to see you.
You as well, sir. And do I call you Doc, Raul? Or
Raul. Raul is fine.
We know each other well
Yeah.
enough. Raul comes to us, and he is a doctor, and he is a very, very informed doctor, and he flies some very, very safe aircraft. And this is something that we've been developing over the past, I would say, many years.
100 years now.
And 100 years. Tell us, Raul, what your primary role, and we've been talking about the safety factor between a gyroplane, and help me here. I've heard gyroplane, gyrocopter, gyrocraft.
They go by all those names: auto gyro, gyroplane, gyrocopter. The official name under the FAA is gyroplanes.
Okay.
Because we're using a runway to take off and land. The originals, they used to be jump takeoff.
What type of?
It's a jump takeoff. So that means it's going to pre-rotate to high RPMs on the rotor, and then release a lever, and it's going to jump.
So really, it's literally a jump takeoff.
Up, okay. And it goes forward. And the first fly of auto gyro was in January 9 of 1923 at an airport in Spain called Los Cuatro Vientos, near Madrid, Four Winds. And it was by Juan de la Cierva. It is a very nice aircraft, and the reason for him designing that aircraft was because he wanted to have an aircraft that was safe and that didn't have some of the issues that we see with the fixed wing, the stall and the spin. Well,
this was, to back you up a little bit, 1923.
1923.
That's only 20 years after the manned flight, powered manned flight, was really in existence. So there was a lot of learning in that first 20 years.
Correct.
It sounds to me like, and we're talking about the gyro, the auto gyro.
The auto gyro.
That was quite a feat back in those days.
Yes.
Okay, now I'm gonna uninterrupt you and let you carry on with your talk.
So, the important things with the gyroplane is that there are several certifications from the FAA that you can use to get your pilot. So you can become a sport pilot for gyroplane. You can have a private. You have a commercial. You also have a recreational. And besides becoming a CFI, a standard CFI for gyroplane, and a sport pilot CFI. So those are the different types of certification that you have. And as you know, then if you are a fixed wing pilot, let's speak on you now, and you want to become a gyroplane, so you are in a different category and class. So you got to go to the rotorcraft category, and then the class is gyroplane. So the easiest thing to do in your case will be to get the sport pilot, because the requirements are there, but they're not as stringent as the one for the private or the commercial. So you end up having to get taught and learn how to fly to proficiency. When you manage to accomplish that proficiency by one instructor, the second instructor will give you your proficiency check right based on the PTS. Everything is based on the PTS. So there is nothing that they have to follow. The second instructor is acting like an examiner for that particular reason. So he has to fill a form, has to send that form to the FAA, and then you get a temporary certificate, really. But in reality, what it is a sign-off in your logbook. And then after 120 days, or before that, you get then statement, a new certificate card, and it gives you then in there that you are now authorized to, as a sport pilot, to fly gyroplanes.
Very interesting. And it is a much different process than it is for our, technically our standard category aircraft.
Correct.
As far as the standard category, and you've been watching this a lot closer than I have, how close are we to coming to a standard category?
Well, we're not going to come to a standard category. What happened is that now with the Mosaic, we are going to make them LSA. So you will be able then, instead of having experimental or experimental exhibition or type 1 certificated, you are going to have an LSA aircraft. So you will fly then under the certification and the regulation for the sport pilot.
Okay. Well, that makes a lot of sense. It really does, because I can only imagine the difficulty it would be to meet the Part 23 standards with a gyroplane.
Yeah, it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work.
Well, let's talk about and why. We just, in a pre-brief, I asked the question to one that was learning about the gyroplane. And the question, why would you want to go to a gyroplane?
Well, number one, for fun, because now you have an aircraft that allows you to fly lower altitudes than you typically fly on a fixed wing. Allows you to see.
But not under 500 feet.
Not under 500 feet.
Okay.
You don't want to hit the drones.
There you go.
At 400. But at the same time, one of the things that happen is that when you're learning to fly gyroplanes and you become proficient, you don't have to worry about stalls, because we don't have stalls, we don't have spins. And the turbulence doesn't affect the gyroplane in the same way that it will affect a fixed wing. The same with the thermals.
Interesting, okay. Interesting. And let's get back to the stall and the spin, because that has held a very, very high number of percentages of accidents in the fixed wing category, stall spin accidents. So you're telling me in the auto gyro, that basically comes out of the equation. You will not stall. You will not spin.
And you do not spin.
Okay. Now, see, you should have a lot of attention from many, many, many people out there. Now let's get into some of the performance factors.
Well, just to give you an example, so let's say that you are flying at 1,000 feet over the runway and you're on the top of the numbers and your engine failed. You still can land on the top of the numbers.
That's hard to do in a fixed wing aircraft.
That is hard to do on a fixed wing.
You can do it, but it takes a lot of maneuvering, a lot of skill.
Right. And the other thing, because they're very, the performance is very well, it works very well on them. When you're taking off, you're going to climb a little faster sometimes at certain aircraft, GA aircraft. And probably by the end of the runway, you could be at 500 feet or more. So if your engine failed, you still can do that impossible turn that we talk on the fixed wing, but we still can go back and land.
Yeah. Well, that would cause a lot of rethinking, because typically in fixed wing aircraft powered, 30 degrees left or right on departure, that's where you need to concentrate on going. In a gyrocopter or rotorcraft, rotor gyro, auto gyro, see, I'm still having a hard time with the term.
You can use any of those names.
You do literally, you turn back around and come back to the airport.
Right.
Or landing surface, or wherever you want. You may want to land out in front of you. It just depends.
Yes. The other thing that is important for people to recognize, especially fixed wing pilots, is that we are not like the fixed wing in terms of taking off. We don't have a rotation speed. So that means when we are entering in a non-tower airport, the runway, we can say, as an example, green gyro taking runway 10 with 1 minute delay for pre-rotation. So as soon as we enter the runway, we align with the center of the runway, and we start the pre-rotation. So depending on the gyro, we say 1 minute because it's one syllable. It makes things easier. So depending on the gyro, is in between 45 seconds to 15, 20 seconds of pre-rotation. And then typically you end up in your brain using, or in your mind, 1, release the pre-rotator, 2, a stick back, 3, release the handbrake, and 4, power to cruise. So you start moving down the runway with the stick all the way back. And the only thing that you have to be concerned is about the movement and the increasing of the rotor RPMs. When you see it going, you may move the stick a little forward, like 3 inches. So that will remove a little bit of the drag out of the rotor, and it start moving a little faster, and it will get the rotor RPM increasing the speed, so coming alive. And it will tell you when to fly, because the nose will go up, you hold it there, and add additional power, and you're up. So the more wind you have, the less runway you take. The less wind you have, you take a little longer.
Interesting. How about landing? Talk to me about how to land these aircraft.
Well, the other thing with the landing is that you have to take into consideration that as a fixed wing pilot, what is your approach? 3 to 4 degrees, right? Which translate to maybe 300, 400, less than 200, 300 feet on your approach. On the gyroplane, we cannot do that because the glide ratio is 3 to 1. So if you are doing that on a gyroplane and your engine quit, where are you going to land? Outside the airport. So that is reason you see many times the gyroplane approaching on final 400, 500 feet, 600 feet, and then they only have to lower the nose and land on that location. So when we're training sometimes for private or commercial or even for the CFI, one of the things that we do besides the typical landing is we take some of the students to go up to 1,000, 1,200, 1,500 feet on final and still land before the middle of the runway.
Okay, Raul, I know this is a little bit off subject, but what's the altitude restrictions?
Well, the altitude restriction depends on your certificate. If you are a sport pilot, you can go higher than 10,000 feet. Okay. On a private, you can do whatever you want, but we are not flying on Class A. And if you're going to go higher than certain altitude, remember, we're going to need to use oxygen.
Where, if I had oxygen, how high? What is the ceiling, if you will?
I think there is a record above 20,000 feet.
Good grief. In an autogyro?
In an autogyro.
That's a lot of...
yeah.
Because it takes a lot of energy to get the
remember,
advancing and receding.
Yeah. The higher you go, the less dense is the air, the faster that rotor is going to be. So you got to make sure that your rotor doesn't exceed the maximum RPMs by the manufacturer. So that is reason certain gyroplanes will not go up because their limit is for 50 or 500. Certain gyroplanes, the maximum RPMs on the rotor are 600 or 500. So they will be able to go there. But what happened then when we're going to higher altitude is that we change the length and the core size of the rotor. Because then the longer the rotor is, the slower it's going to turn. So then we gain a little bit more altitude if we need to fly. So as an example, if we decided to fly from here to Colorado, and we don't have to worry about changing the propeller pitch and making sure that we can go over the mountains, we are using longer rotor blades, wider core. So for example, in some of the gyros that we use is 8.8 and 218 millimeters and a single lever variable pitch propeller.
Very interesting. The rotorcraft theory itself is not new. Mechanically, I have not traced and watched the mechanical reliability as much as I probably should. But you, being that is your world.
Well, the nice thing about the gyroplane is it's always in auto rotation. The only time that rotor will have power is when you're doing the pre-rotation. It's under power to be able to get to the speed on the rotor, the RPMs that you need on the rotor to be able to take off. Other than that, when you're flying, depending on the maneuver, the rotor will get loaded, so it will speed up a little bit, or depending on what you're trying to do, it will cone up more. And then when you get out of that one, will release that RPM, it will go back to normal. So basically the auto rotation takes what it needs, and whatever else doesn't need, it gets rid of it.
Interesting. Weight-wise, how do we stand on gross weight with these aircraft?
Well, right now, because of the engines that we have, we still have a limitation like any rotorcraft. If you put too much weight, then you got to put less fuel. If you put too much fuel, you got to make sure that you have the right weight for the pilot and the passenger. So we're trying to. We have right now a gyroplane that has a 3-seat, but the gross weight is 1,500 pounds, and we can only use a 916 because it's 160, but it has a limitation, and so depending on the weight of each seat and where you're going to put the weight, so you got to calculate all of those like anything else.
So the Rotex 916 is
what we're using for that.
Okay. Wow. And as power plants change, there may be more options available.
There is one prototype in Poland of, I think it's a 4-seater, but it's a twin engine. So it's not an easy thing to fly. We'll have then to get training on twin engines, what happened when one quit, all those crazy things that we deal with when we're flying a multi-engine aircraft.
But there's another thing that I would like to bring up, and it's one of hangar space. You can put a lot more gyrocopters in a hangar.
Well, as an example, remember we have a T-hangar, and I used to put 7 gyros on the T-hangar.
That's cost effective.
Yeah.
The material, the manufacturers basically, where are the primary manufacturers of these gyrocopters?
Well, you have Germany, you have here in Florida, Zephyrhill, you have Poland, Italy. In Italy, you have 2 manufacturers. In Spain, you have another one. And so those are the majority. In France, you have 1, 2.
Okay. Raul, how about how is the young pilot or the youth embracing the auto gyro? And I know it's very hard once you learn to fly one, where are you going to go to get one to go fly?
Yes. So as an example, my students at the university where I teach, some of them are fixed wing pilots, and they're really curious, and so I have given them a ride on the gyroplane, and now they are hooked. So they just want to learn how to fly gyroplanes. And as you know, younger people have that ability to learn a little faster when it comes to doing certain things.
What are you saying, Raul? You calling me old? Huh? No, it may take me a little longer to pick it up than a young one, but I would like to explore that. A good common friend of ours, Rob Vader, in Louisiana, they have a nice machine out there, and it's a
very interesting machine because it has 155 horses with a single lever variable pitch propeller, and they modified the instrument panel to be able to have now a glass screen. So you got all the regular instrument plus the glass screen, and they were thinking of putting autopilot because you can put autopilot now on the gyroplane. But their intention was to use the gyroplane to train veterans that are paralyzed from the waist down, which is a great. They're already doing that on the fixed wing, but they were thinking about doing that on the gyroplane. And
would that be more in the side-by-side cockpit configuration?
We don't know yet. It probably at the end they're going to be ended on using the tandem because it will be easier for them to get in and out, and the open cockpit.
Raul, is there anything here in the end as we wind it up that you'd like to share with us, other than remember that FAA credit?
They have a few topics that I touched that were going to be on the questions for the wings credit.
Okay.
If you're not a member of the FAA safety.gov, please register, open an account, and if you're a pilot, take advantage of that because you will be able to do your flight review there. If you're an instructor, take advantage of that because if you do 5 pilots, you will be able to, with 3 flight activities and 5 pilots, your flight instructor certificate get renewed.
Excellent. It's all good news, and it's all good. Every time is interesting to spend. Thank you, Raul, for your time.
Thank you for having me.
We'll do it again sometime.
Next year.
Oh, what a concept. But no kidding, folks. Go out and get your gyroplane fix, if you will, here at Sun and Fun or internet. There's a lot of information on it, and I think that it's going to be becoming a little bit more
popular.
I'm gonna say popular, because of the lack of stall spin situation. I'm Ben Coleman, your anchor host for the Florida Aviation Network. We'll see you next interview.